Oh yeah, James.
Hi everybody, welcome to BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. My name is Nikki.
And I'm Kelly.
And this week we are talking about one of my favorite, the beginning of one of my favorite series of all time, and you cannot judge me, Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. I cannot even express how happy I am that we're finally doing this. And before we get into it, Kelly is going to read the synopsis for us.
About 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how dominant that part might be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. And that's all you need to know.
What a classic line.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Who's judging you, Nikki? If they're listening, they're in on it. And if you are judging, please keep listening because it's fun.
Yeah. And by the end of it, you will also want to read this book.
Yes.
I guarantee it. Guarantee it. What did you rate this, Kelly? Do you have a rating from when you read it when you were younger?
Oh gosh, I read this when I was 12 and I don't think I've read it since. So I know I loved it when I was 12, so it was probably a 5 out of 5. But this time around, I gave it a 4. So definitely not bad. I had some little things that I was I don't know about that. Just in terms of technical, book structure stuff, I guess.
Right.
But I mean, we'll definitely get into this. But as I was reading it, I had so much fun. And I just kept thinking to myself, God, this movie really didn't do the book any service. It really didn't.
I know. There were a lot of things. So I read the book, when I was I was probably around 12 as well, or 11. Mm-hmm. And then read it for the first time since then last year and was totally, I had such a book hangover after I reread the series. I was so upset. But yeah, there were so many things in the book that I just didn't have any recollection of at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know. I feel like I finished all 4 books as a kid, but I don't really remember the last book a lot. No, you know what? I think I did read it because I think I remembered being annoyed about something, but I didn't watch all the movies. I've seen most of them, thanks to you and our other friend, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Who just sprung it on me one day.
It was raining. It was the perfect time.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's actually pouring here today and there's a blue full moon. So it is the perfect day to talk about this book.
Oh my God. Yeah, we have the filter on in real life already.
But yeah, I gave it a 4 to 5. I did enjoy it. There's certain things that I'm in terms of what I usually like in books, didn't do it for me, but I still had a great time. And I kept thinking about the movie being this is way better than the movie. It's way better than the other books it inspired. Don't need to name them because I'm sure we've all seen them. But
yep.
Is this A+++? No, but I'd say it was an A. I had a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. You can definitely see, at least I did. I definitely saw reading this as an adult why it was so powerful for so many people and why so many young people really hopped on the Edward bandwagon and later Team Edward, Team Jacob. Because oh my God, the way that she does the tension in these books, this is totally PG. I would say even E for everyone. They kiss. I mean, I guess she gets a little handsy with the kiss. But
it's not described. It's just oh my God, I was breathing heavily and my blood was pumping. And then Edward's stop, Bella,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not she went anywhere naughty or anything. It was totally like appropriate for an 11-year-old to read. Like there was nothing in it where I was like, oh my god, my mom wouldn't want me to read this. But still, like, I still felt the tension. I was like, there were moments reading this as an adult where I was like, oh my god, oh my god.
I know, same. It definitely hits differently as an adult, I will say. And not in a bad way, just in a different way.
Yeah, it was one thing I didn't remember was how, well, I guess it's kind of like this in the movie too, but the book is kind of like a book and a novella. So there's like the main book where there's like the Edward and Bella story, but then the last like 20% of the book is this whole other like different plot line that she just needed to use to get like a climax to close it off or whatever.
Yes. Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about that because I like forgot about that, and then as soon as the other vampires showed up, I was like, oh yeah, James. And I was so annoyed because the first like 3/4 of the book was like slow burn, tension, what's going on, whatever. And then the last bit was like a John Grisham thriller or something. It was like it was like The Firm or something, you know?
I love that.
It was like Harrison Ford like running through the city streets or something. But like I didn't want that. I wanted to go back to Edward and Bella, but Edward.
Yeah. I'm Team Edward all the way.
Me too. I don't care, all you Team Jacobers, like we'll talk later. You can't sway me.
Stephenie Meyer wasn't even Team Jacob. Team Jacob wasn't even supposed to be a thing. No. That's her brother's name.
Ew.
Yeah, that's her brother's name. And from what I've heard, I don't have like an article to back me on this that I can think of. I've just like from reading things. She wrote it as a standalone. And then it became a series. And I don't know if those like publishers, they really liked Jacob and this idea of like having more of a battle. But at least that's, people can correct me if I'm wrong. I could totally be wrong, but I think that that's kind of what the gist was of that.
Okay.
And so her brother Jacob was not supposed to really be like a thing.
Oh, God. I mean, that kind of makes sense because maybe that's why the last quarter of this book is so jarring in tone. Like, suddenly we're in like a spy thriller or something, or it's like we need to run, we need to get to the airport, we gotta lose the scent, you know, all that stuff. Like, whatever.
And something that was like so small in this book is the catalyst for really like the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Which is a little bonkers to me. I mean, I guess the second book has a different plot away from that, but the whole third book is all about James's mate and her kind of seeking vengeance.
Which,
I don't know.
Like, girl, what?
Right?
Get over it.
He didn't even like you.
No. He just like used you. He wanted to kill you, but then he was like, well, I guess I can't or whatever. Like,
yeah.
No. So are you saying sorry, you didn't give us a rating. Is this a 5 for you?
Oh, yeah. It'll be a 5 for the rest of my life. I don't know. Like this series has a grip on me.
Yeah.
Even like, so, I mean, it's been mentioned in other like episodes and stuff. I'm divorced. And when I was getting divorced, I remember like when my ex left the house that we were living in, and my first night I binge watched the entire Twilight series. And it was like my comfort watch for probably like a month after that. I just felt like, I don't know, I was like channeling all of my feelings into Edward and Bella. Which is such a weird thing to say as like an adult, but yeah, I don't know. It was such a good time to like get back into like this kind of like cult situation of a movie.
Yes.
And book, but movie.
If I see you wearing like a peasant dress or something, I'm gonna be like, wait a sec.
Wearing
hand embroidered long skirts.
Oh yeah, the khaki skirt with her like button up blouse or whatever.
Oh, God. I could not. Reading this book, I had to really, really try hard not to imagine the actors from the movie because I didn't want to. Because the movie, when it first came out, I was so excited because I was like prime audience, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like fully into the fantasy. And then when I watched it again, like a couple years later, I was like, I hate this. I hate this so much. Not a fan of Kristen Stewart's acting, just in general. However,
yeah.
I will say, I think the director did her dirty in this movie because it's terrible. And again, I don't really like her acting in like any movie I've seen her in, but this is so horrendous that I'm like, the captain of the ship, is that Aaron Taylor Johnson's hopefully soon to be ex-wife?
Yes.
Yeah, problematic. Very.
Yeah.
Disturbed. But yeah, I'm like, you did this, you know, like she's not that great in my opinion of an actor, but like this is just terrible. So I could not picture her reading this, and I don't have anything against Robert Pattinson. However, I did see on TikTok that apparently Stephenie Meyer doing the Lord's work, okay, she wanted Henry Cavill to be cast. Yep. Which, in what world would he have been Edward? Like, even at the time of this movie, he would have been way too old.
Yep.
But as soon as I heard that on TikTok from his mouth, Henry Cavill was like, she wanted me. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't. Oh my God. I tried so hard to picture him every time as Henry Cavill in this book. And it really does impact your reading experience. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. I personally cannot not think of the cast. Like, it is so hard.
It really is.
Especially like how much I've seen the movies. Like, they're just those characters.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. I wish I could picture Henry Cavill as Edward, but no, like I can't. I don't even really like Robert Pattinson that much, and I think they could have picked somebody that like fits better, like when they're in the meadow and he takes his shirt off to show her that he's sparkling, and in the book she says something about his beautiful like physique, basically like he looks so good. And I was just thinking of Robert Pattinson's little salami nipples with hair around them, and it was just not good. It wasn't a hot scene in the movie.
How old was he when they did that movie? Because I feel like maybe he was too young.
I think he was in his early 20s, and she was 17 when they started filming and 18 by the time they finished filming the first one, because then they started dating during that first movie.
Yeah, normally I'm like, oh, why do they have people way older than the roles playing these roles? But I think for this it might have helped a little bit because
by the fourth movie he was really good looking and his physique had really built out. So he matched a lot more the description in the book of the broad shoulders and toned and the arms and stuff. Yeah. It was much more Robert Pattinson circa Breaking Dawn than Twilight. Twilight, he was just like a little slug. A cute slug, but still.
When you're supposed to be playing like the perfect specimen, that's a tall order. It's a tall order for any, let's say he was 21. You're barely out of puberty as a dude. You know what I mean? Like, and you're supposed to be immaculate. Immaculate. Little musical theater reference.
Had to throw it in.
Yes, always. That meadow scene I always think of as Stephenie Meyer. I think she said in a bunch of interviews that like that was the dream she had, that inspired her
Right.
to write this book. And I'm just like, man, I want to know what your dream was, because I know she said it was not PG. And instead she wrote this YA book, which I think is so interesting that she didn't want to do an adult book. But the slow burn, like the tension, I gotta say, I love every moment where they're talking and he like rubs his nose like on her collarbone or like her neck or whatever. Like, oh my God, just
I know.
it's so nice. It's so nice. I don't want to think about him like smelling her blood, because there's something weird about someone
Right.
like smelling you that intensely, but
Right.
like just rubbing your nose on them. I was like, oh my God, this is so
It is like
good.
kind of erotic. Like,
Yeah, sensual.
yeah, it was really nice. Like, just there were certain moments in this book where I felt like she did a very good job at describing what was happening. Like, I mean, obviously those moments wouldn't have worked and we wouldn't have felt like that if they weren't done well, because we have
Yeah.
read plenty of book
Oh yeah.
where that was not done in the optimal way, let me tell you. But yeah, every time there was something like that, when the first night he spends at her house after she knows he's spending time at her house.
Spending time watching her sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I don't feel like it's weird in this book.
Really?
I feel totally on board with what was happening.
I'm not. That's the point off from Edward. I'm like, you know how I sleep? I'm drooling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what if I was warm and needed to take my shirt off? Like, did I ask you to be there? And if I'm Bella, I'm underage, bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get
Or if
thee
you, like,
from
fart
my
in your
room.
sleep. So embarrassing.
Okay, have you read the one through his perspective?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Can you imagine those chapters? Like, I watched her. She rolled over 20 times. She farted 3 times. She, like, grunted. She said my name. Like, what? How boring. I can't.
The book is really long, too. So, like, double the length of Twilight.
Well, he says to her, what else am I going to do at night? Like, literally anything else. But he decides to spend that chunky ass book, half of it probably, watching her sleep and toot and God knows what else in her sleep.
Well, already a point up from Crave, because she does go into the bathroom several times in this book.
True.
And the book does last longer than 5 days.
Oh my God. That's one thing. Okay, so I paid really close attention to how Edward was speaking to people, mainly Bella, let's be honest, because that's
Yeah.
the most interaction we see in this book. And while it was a little old-fashioned, it was not like weirdly robotic like 50 Shades of Grey. It was not super aggravating like Jackson and Crave. It was pretty like standard formal English. You know what I mean?
Yeah, modern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was
I
great.
agree.
Yeah.
It did, yeah, because it did separate him from everybody else that was his age. In a way that it made sense that other high schoolers felt really uncomfortable around him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't sitting there going like, like the whole time.
Yeah. It
Like
wasn't
I
like,
was in Crave.
yeah. And it wasn't so formal, outdated that was like, pardon me, miss, but I have surmised you have dropped your serviette or whatever. Like, no, it was
Yeah.
just, yeah. It was like
I
normal,
know.
formal.
Yeah. I was surprised too. I feel like I picked up on this last time I read it last year, but this is not portrayed in the books at all, which I guess makes sense because a lot of it is more of a thought or something that Bella notices that Edward does. But it's brought up a few times, the way that he interacts with Alice and the kind of dynamic the two of them have, if she's telling him something or talking to him about, I don't know, something that's to come. And he has this really uncomfortable energy about Alice. And I don't really know if that's ever explored in the books more deeply, but I just want to know what's up. We know what's up with him and Rosalie, basically. They were supposed to be together. They're not together. She's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
But, like, I think she's kind of a valid bitch, too.
Yeah. Also, every time Bella talks about Rosalie, she talks about how attractive she is. And I'm like, are you jealous of her, or are you like bi for her? Or not bi for her, but are you bi? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because every time she brings up Rosalie, she's like, her beautiful figure. She could be a Sports Illustrated model. Like, when I look at a girl, I don't think she could be a Sports Illustrated model. I'm just like, oh, she's pretty. But, like, I'm not noting her physique, her...
Right.
I don't know, the look of her skin. I don't know, all these, like, very minute details she's so intrigued by. I'm like, interesting.
I wonder if that's supposed to be the author's way of really showing, but I don't know, because Edward says on occasion how beautiful Bella is, and like she's the most beautiful thing to him and whatever. But when we see it from Bella's standpoint, and she is talking about Rosalie like that, is that just supposed to be an author's device to really show like the difference? Because I guarantee you Rosalie is not wearing a fucking khaki skirt around and a fucking like button-up blouse. I guarantee you she is not doing that.
Unless it's like Banana Republic. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I just was like, interesting. Every time she talked about Rosalie, it was like, oh my god. Like,
I know.
I don't know. I also totally forgot that Edward was born in 1901. Why did I think he was like 200 plus years old? He's not. Also, he was born in Chicago, which immediately, reading this as an adult, I was like, bitch, I'm from Chicago. I really want him to like have a thick Chicago accent and just like not take any shit. But also, he like quote unquote died when he was 17, right? He was turned when he was 17.
Yeah.
And in my mind, when I'm reading this, I'm like, so, because we talked about this in Crave with Jackson, kind of, what happens to your brain? Like, are you still a 17-year-old in your brain?
Right.
But you're like stuck in the past, but now you're thrust into the present, sort of. So like, does he find it weird that Bella wears pants? Is that maybe why he's weird with Alice, of like this girl telling me I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because in Crave, it was so easy to make the argument that their brain obviously has to just be frozen and stay there, because these kids were dumb. They were dumb.
They really were.
But in this situation, in Twilight, I would be apt to believe that their thinking and their brains do progress in some way, because, I mean, he calls the other high schoolers children, and Jacob, he calls a child, and she says, I'm only a few years older than him. And he was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Because obviously, and I mean, I feel like we're the same way, and we would have been like this in high school. Old souls.
Yeah.
I do think that's a thing. There are people who are just a lot more mature, and I think that Stephenie sets Bella up in a really good way for that argument with her. She took care of her mom basically her whole life, because her mom was a very free spirit, and that makes you grow up really fast.
Yeah.
So it does make
Charlie.
me feel, it makes me feel a lot less weird about the connection that her and Edward have, because I think that there is a gap that's being bridged by her experience of taking care of people from a young age, and then the fact that he's been alive so long.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like reading it this time around, and maybe it'll change with the next book or whatever, but I wasn't as annoyed with Bella as I was when I was younger. But I also don't know if that's just the movie, because the movie was so bad. My God.
I know.
She seems less like a manic pixie dream girl this time around. She just seems very like, she's definitely like a self-insert kind of like everyman character, you know? Like we don't get a lot of detail about her, but like she doesn't feed into the drama going on at school. I don't even think there's a moment where Edward says to her, I am a vampire. She just kind of guesses it, and he's like, okay, yeah, moving on. Like, it's not like in the movie where he's like, say it, you know?
Yeah.
Which I was like waiting to see if that would happen.
I know.
Thank God there's no hold on tight spider monkey, because I can't stand that. Like, that has to be one of the worst lines in any movie. What is attractive about that? Hold on tight, spider monkey.
I don't know. It makes me want to gag.
Right? But like she seems very like kind of level-headed. Maybe not like she doesn't do everything I would necessarily do, but like she's like, I've made a decision. This is what I want. Yep. You know, just very like calm. So I don't know. It was interesting reading it now versus when I was 12 and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And I feel like this is what if I were a teenager dating a vampire.
Yes.
And they were saying things to me like, oh, you blah, blah, blah. And I would also feel like, is there something wrong with me? And that's what she keeps coming back to. Is there something wrong with me? And he's like, you think there's something wrong with you? And I'm literally dead. Like, what? But I totally understand that. Yeah. If he's saying, oh, for my species, my like whatever he is, it's like this, and you are negating those things, I'd be like, well, you know, thousands of years and I'm not doing, or like I'm not proving whatever you're saying, I'd feel like there was something wrong with me. I don't know. Like, just me.
Oh my God. Also, not even thinking about what's in this book, because clearly the content of this book really shaped what was to come for the YA, or not genre, but like the audience, I guess, or the genre of paranormal romance. Because it's not like she invented the wheel in terms of vampires. She definitely changed some things. Like they shine in the light. Like, okay, sure, they sparkle. But the cover of this book is freaking iconic in the true sense of the word iconic. Like, it is such a good cover. The new covers are bogus with that terrible font that's like hyphenated. Right. It's disgusting. But even the synopsis I read, all you need is those 3 sentences. And you're like,
you're
what?
Hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you that's so good. It's so good.
I know. And I don't know, in the book, everything gets played out so much more, obviously, because there's a lot more time for them to play with. But the fact that he showed up at school and then just like didn't come back for like
a
6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think it was like he smelled her and then he was like gone for like weeks and weeks and weeks, and she could not stop thinking about him. And I was like, yes, I need more.
I know.
I need more.
That's something that by the time I was done the book, I was kind of like, oh, I forgot about this, because I really enjoyed the slow build of their relationship and learning about each other and all that stuff. But I felt like they jumped so quickly from the longing and pining and rubbing of the nose on the collarbone, whatever, to they're both like, I'm in love with you. You're it. You're my soulmate. Yeah. And I get that they feel strongly, but he was gone for so long. And it's different to just be thinking about someone for so long and having that actual time with them. And he's got endless amount of time. So I wish it would have been a slower build for them to actually be like, yeah, I love you, versus like, it felt like they only spent maybe 4 days together of like a lot of time together. Yeah. And then they were like, I love you, which I was like, that's too much.
Yeah. I could see her saying, I love you. That sounds like a very high schooler thing to do. I mean, adults do that.
Yep.
But because he is so old, to not have any kind of pushback or more reasoning on his part, she basically says, I love you. And he says, you're my whole world now and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And
which, like, same, but
yeah. Yeah. But I agree. There could have been more.
Because I loved the build. Yeah. It was so...
I know, I did too.
Sensual. Yeah, it was so like, oh my gosh, all these things are happening. And he's like the bad boy, but he's the bad boy with a gold heart. You know? Sort of a golden heart of gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like it was so quick to transition. And then suddenly she was on the run for her life.
Yeah, basically.
There was I don't remember there was any explanation about when she came back. How did she deal with that with Charlie? It was just like, oh, she fell. But if I were Charlie, I'd be like, you just like basically ran away from home because of this boy. And now everything's hunky-dory. Like, what?
Yeah, I know. That scene when she leaves him at the house and he's trying to talk to her, I feel like I'm going to like cry just talking about it because it makes me so upset.
I know.
And the fact that she says she used the same words her mom used on him when she left. Ugh.
I know.
It just kills me. And I love Charlie.
He makes me so sad because I feel like Bella and Charlie are so similar, but they don't spend any time together. And I know you don't, some people like alone time, but she's not really having alone time most of the time. She's with Edward, which I get. You're young, you're in love, whatever. I get it. Been there, done that. But it just makes me sad. He's all alone, you know?
I know.
And then she does that to him.
I know. I do like that there's more for Charlie later in the books.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate that. And I don't know. I'm Team Charlie, I think. I just love him. I don't know what the actor's name is, but the guy who plays him in the movie is like fine.
There's that TikTok that's like, when you're older, you stop liking Jacob or Edward, you like Charlie.
I'm there.
It's like the Lord of the Rings thing. Like, we go through phases of like,
yeah,
Legolas, like Aragorn, Sam.
Yep. Oh my god.
I don't know.
That's the ultimate like Gimli.
And his axe.
Hell yeah.
Or Carlisle, I guess. Carlisle is also another one that people are like, oh my god, when they're a little older.
Yeah. I did not like who they got to portray him in the movie.
He looks like a hawk.
Yeah, his nose is really pointy.
Yeah. Which
he grew on me after a while, but I was not sold.
Okay, I know it's all like a design choice, but I'm just saying, if I was at that school and there was like a table full of kids who looked like they did, I'd be like, obviously they're vampires. Like, they look so bizarre. They were like white, milk, bone white, glowing eyes. Their nostrils are flaring. They've got fangs. Like, their hair is never out of place. Riddle me that.
Wigs.
Yeah.
They have to be wigs.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we already know Jacob's was a wig. That should be burnt.
No, but I mean, like, if you're a vampire and you stop growing, then your hair would stop growing. Oh, and then what happens to your hair after like hundreds of years? Like, they have to just be bald and be wearing wigs because
I don't know
how. Unless, is it like some kind of magical spell and when you cut their hair it just grows back to where it was?
Maybe, because I'm thinking of Interview with a Vampire, which I never read but I watched, and Kirsten Dunst, I always get her name wrong, her character, she tries to change her hair and it grows immediately back. She tries to do all these things. It goes right back. So maybe it's like that. I don't know. Maybe. Stephenie, we need some answers. This is just like with our Crave episode. We need to know so many minute things because no one is giving us this info. Like, what happens when Bella is on her period? I still need to know. He can't handle her giving blood or whatever.
Oh, I think that she said it's fine because it's not oxygenated blood. I think there was an answer to that because I'd be like, if this book went the way I thought, I would think it would. This would not be PG. And those would be the best weeks of her life.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah.
That's what it would be. It would be, yeah. It would either be the best time of her life or the worst time, depending on what her periods were like. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have questions.
I guess he doesn't care about the period blood.
Oh, definitely not. But whether he's like ensnared, bewitched by her uterus at that, or her vagina at that point, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bewitched, bothered, and bewildered. I've got questions, okay? So
many.
Another question I have for you, Nikki, is if you had to rank Bella's friend group, who would you say, like, trash him versus, like, yeah, you're my friend? Like, who do you want to hang out with?
Angela.
Yes!
That's it.
100%. Yes.
Because Mike is mopey and gross and such an ick.
He's so needy.
And Jess and Lauren.
Yeah. Lauren's
suck.
a bitch.
They're the same person in the movie.
Oh, okay.
They just kind of like merge them into one person in the movie.
Yeah.
But Jessica, ew.
Yeah.
I love that Edward is always, when he talked to Bella about how he was finding out information about her, he goes, I had to listen to what Jessica was thinking. That was awful. And I was like, yes, throw down, Edward. Throw down.
She's just fake. She's fake AF. I can't stand her.
I know. And she's not even good at being fake because Bella will say one thing about herself and Jess is like, what about Mike?
Ugh.
With me.
What about Mike?
Whatever.
Who cares? Mike is the nice guy, quote unquote, who's like, I said hi to you. Why won't you marry me? Get away.
I know.
Ew.
I know. And I don't really remember like if him and Jessica stay together.
Who cares?
For everything. But does she not see that she's definitely second pick?
Right.
And does she not care? I would care. It would make me not like him anymore.
Okay, this happened to me when I was in grade 6. I was the first pick. If you can believe it, you better.
I can.
Like, Nikki. If anyone can believe it, it has to be you, my friend. My best friend. But I was the first pick. I wasn't allowed to date. And so, like an idiot that I was, I told him that. And then Kevin was like, I'm just going to go date Chelsea, who had no personality. Okay. And I was like, why would you want to date him when the day before he asked me out? Like, how's that feel good? But she didn't care. They did not last. No, I'm not bitter. But I'm with someone else who's way better. But, like, why would you want to be the second pick? Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I could have so many questions. I'd be like, I'd be questioning every little thing they did. You know, like, do you actually like me? Or are you just like, you're here?
Yeah. Right? I know.
Scott and I are playing Stardew Valley right now. And he literally said to me, because we haven't been focusing on any of the friend things or like social aspects. We've been like building that farm up. We've made more than $1 million. We're so great. Yeah. But we have no friends. So he said to me,
the lonely millionaire.
Yes. He said to me, oh, I should date Emily. And I was like, what? Why? And he's like, well, she's the only one I have any kind of relationship with, and she's single. So there's that. I'm like, so she's literally the only option. That's why you're like, I should date her. There's so many options, Scott. You could get with like Leah, not Elliot. He's the worst. But like, you could get with so many people. And he's just like, yeah, she's there and she's single. That's Mike with Jessica.
Yeah. I went with Leah.
Yeah, she's nice, and she's an artist.
Yeah.
Also, her ex is Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I played the first time as myself, or as my name, and I was like, oh, boy, Kelly.
Is it Kelly with an EY?
Ew, I don't know.
I can't remember.
It's not natural.
I know.
I digress.
It's not natural.
Yeah, no, also, I was really annoyed going back to this book. I was really annoyed with Jacob, naturally, but with his dad.
Right?
I was like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, you're not my dad, you know?
Right. I like that Jacob does things for him, but he's like, I don't believe any of this. He's like, I'm just doing it so I can get car parts.
Yeah.
Which is fair, you know? Whatever. Yeah. That's fine. But yeah.
My question to that is, so does he not know anything about his family? Because like he goes through the change, if you will, by the end of the book. So
by
he
the end
know?
of the second book.
Oh, but didn't he at the dance? She was like, he's so tall and like he looked different and stuff.
So he is, I think he's like preparing to go through the change. I guess we'll just touch on this. Most people probably know in the second book, when Edward goes, her and Jacob get really close, and then he gets sick and she doesn't see him and he won't answer her calls for quite a while. And so she shows up there and she finds out that he's a wolf, and that's when he finds out everything. And he's like, how dare you with those blood suckers.
The cold ones or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Iconic.
It's so bizarre to me, though, that he wouldn't know that all of his relatives, they're not all related, but like at least his actual relatives that are part of the pack, like he doesn't know anything about that. It's wild to me.
I think that they don't even start changing until the second book, because he has his friends are with him, and then through the book they see them with Sam, who is the alpha of the pack, and he said, oh yeah, like Embry kind of just fucked off one day and now he's with Sam and now he follows him around everywhere and I don't know why. And then it happens with one of his other friends, and then Sam's group kind of grows bigger and bigger. So I don't know if, well, he knows the legends of the Cold Ones, so I'm assuming he also knows the legends of his ancestors being wolves, but at that point he doesn't believe any of it. So I don't know. I'm emotionally preparing myself for the second book because the second book makes me so incredibly anxious.
Yeah.
It is not like the movie where she gets cut and then the next day he leaves. It's days of him ignoring her. Yeah, right. It is days that he ignores her before he leaves, and it is, you get a stomach ache reading it.
Yeah.
That's another instance where she did a really good job of really getting in the character's mind. I'm not looking forward to that.
But also, the main thing I remember about that book is turning the page and seeing just the months go by.
Right?
Oh!
I know. I know.
Like, this is a good book. I mean, yeah, like, again, I wouldn't say A++++, but it's not that bad. Like, I think it gets such a bad rap because the movie was so bad.
Yeah. And I think, too, anything that teenage girls love gets shit on immediately because, ew.
Yeah. even
apparently.
though we spend the most money, like women spend more than men on music, books, all these things, and yet they're like, we don't want women to like it if it's not like targeted directly at them. Get out of here. I'll take my money elsewhere. Thank you. You know,
to Stephenie Meyer to write more of these books.
I want an Omegaverse werewolf, or not werewolf, maybe werewolf. Yeah, sure. Omegaverse werewolf or wolf shifter romance.
Yeah.
But leave Jacob out of it because I can't stand him.
Facts. Definitely.
Please. I'll just watch Teen Wolf again.
Oh, I love that show.
We should binge it. I have it.
Yeah.
Not sponsored, but it is on Paramount Plus. Just saying. The only reason why I got it.
I love that.
I was just going to say, like, any hopes for book 2, but I guess I'm asking the wrong person. I don't remember much of this series, so I'm kind of like,
oh.
Yeah. I remember.
So do you have any hopes?
I don't know. I guess I am still a little, like, I find it a little daunting looking at all 4 of these chunky books to be like, I'm going to read them back to back. But I just know, I think the second book is the hardest for me to get through because Edward's not there for a lot of it. And I don't like Jacob. So that's like a real factor for me.
Right.
But I don't remember a lot of the books. So I am excited. I only remember like huge plot points.
Yeah.
So
that's true. There is some Edward in there.
Yeah.
Just not in the traditional way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how that would be hard. And the second one is is she pretty thick?
Yeah.
She a thick bitch.
Yeah. I am kind of sad that I got rid of my original copies. Like, I bought the whole cycle at, I think, the library, like a library book sale, and I got it for like $3-4. So that's pretty good. But like, I do miss my original hardcovers. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But oh well.
Yeah.
You live in your learn.
I was gonna read. So Kelly got me. She purchased for me the white like special edition set, and
with
so I was gonna
covers.
read those. Yeah, the nice covers. And I was gonna read those, but I opened the first one and I was like, I can't do it. I need to keep them good because they're white too. I'm like, I'm gonna have to wash my hands all the time. Like, what if I get dirt on them? So, and I have so many Post-it notes in my physical ones that I just downloaded them for my Kindle so I can read them at night while Bryce is sleeping beside me.
And not have to hold this big chunky thing. Yeah. Now that I have the Kindle stand and the little clicker, I'm just like, why am I ever going to hold a physical book in bed ever again? I'm not. I'm just going to lay on my side and be like... You're like a medieval princess. You're like, I can't use my hands for things. If I see like elbow length gloves, I'll be like, okay. Keeping them pristine.
Okay, but for real, the other night I was holding the clicker like this, but my thumb was sore. I don't know why. So I just went like this and pressed the button with my nose.
Oh my god.
I reached peak laziness.
Now we need to make it where it's integrated with your eyes, and every time you blink, it changes, but you have to like not blink.
Yeah, no, that sounds like not blink. You have to blink with intention, like, like I Dream Genie.
Yes. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
I'm excited to continue on this Twilight Forks experience, but I am still nervous. Thank God you're here to hold my hand because...
Well, I guarantee you it is going to be a lot faster of a journey than The Lord of the Rings. So...
And 50 Shades. My God, I zipped through those, but at what cost? At what cost?
Yeah, it is also better than... Like, I don't feel like the books got boring by any means.
Yeah.
Every book was a new thing, and I was like, yes, eating it up. So... That's good.
I can't wait.
Yeah. On that note, we are going to wrap up this episode. If you would like to see more from us, you can follow us on Instagram at BYO Book Podcast, or you can follow us on TikTok at Bring Your Own Book Podcast. Next week, we are continuing with the Twilight saga with New Moon. And until next time, keep on drinking in great stories. Cheers!
Next time on BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book Podcast. I felt like I was trapped in one of those terrifying nightmares, the one where you have to run till your lungs burst, but you can't make your body move fast enough.